This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
Welcome to the War Room, folks. We got an awesome guest today, Leanna. Welcome to the show, all the way from Montana, my home state. Woo!
Oh, great.
Hey, it's great to have you on the show. And I always love to start with tell the audience just a little brief 30-second clip about yourself and what your superpower is.
Sure. Well, I am the owner of an independent pharmacy here in Montana, my mom and pop shop. And I guess my superpower is I'm doing it all while thriving with type 1 diabetes.
Yeah. I couldn't have said that better myself. and I know that's like your mission in life is diabetes, helping educate people to deal with diabetes, to live with it a little bit better. And that's something that we can really get into as we go throughout the show. But before we do that, I always like to kick off the show with this one simple question. Did you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I did. I think anyone who owns an independent pharmacy has entrepreneur spirit inside of them. You really have to in this industry. And so, yeah, I do come from a family of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So your folks ran the pharmacy for how many years prior to you taking over? A long time, right?
They did. Yes. They owned the pharmacy for 37 years before I finally took that plunge myself.
Wow. I'm not sure if that's crazy or what, but
yeah, probably.
Well, you know what they say about business people and entrepreneurs. You got to be a little bit off kilter to begin with anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Just a little right of center, as somebody told me.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I'm curious to know how did that affect you? Growing up, what's that origin story of what's the Leanna origin story? Let's unpack that.
Yeah, growing up in that, I always saw the value that they added to the community. Perfectly honest, and in high school and getting ready for college, I wasn't 100% set on pharmacy. I just knew in the health and wellness space for sure. And then it came time to enroll and really pick that path. And I just could not see myself going or doing anything else. And so that just really triggered my commitment to it of, seeing the value that they were able to add back to the community, their role in community. Their role in the healthcare system, honestly, is just very inspiring. I believe very strongly in the independent pharmacy world. So that just is kind of the start of it. And then really getting into the meat of the education in pharmacy school. I'm a big nerd at heart. So, getting to learn all of the medications, the body, and how everything interacts. It's the right place for me.
Yeah. It's funny because being a pharmacist is, what I've learned from you over the last year is you're pretty close to just being a doctor, really. And it's really quite amazing that you have all these different things that you have to be responsible for, but yeah, I'm not even sure how to put it in the right words, but it's a lot of responsibility, right? When it comes to, you're housing the health and welfare of people's lives, and especially in the diabetes realm, and I know you've lived with that for your life. And I know that's a heavy mission that you are out on right now. And what does that look like? What is that mission for you? I'm just really curious as to how do we take that fight to the street, you know?
Right. Yeah, and that all really stems from my personal experience of
Yeah.
living with diabetes. It's actually, I guess I'm kind of what you would consider a late bloomer in the type 1 diabetes world. I was diagnosed at age 25 in April of 2011. And so I was literally 1 month away from graduating pharmacy school. And I was at home in my community pharmacy doing a rotation there. And I had been having these symptoms, a lot of muscle aches, frequent urination, all these signs, but I chalked them up to how stressed I was coming out of some intense hospital rotations and everything prior to that. But that day I just thought, shoot, I'm just going to check my blood sugar and see what it is. And I hadn't had anything to eat or drink that morning. And I poked my finger and it was 311. And I was just, oh my gosh, I have diabetes. I know it. And I called my hometown clinic and said, I have to come in. I think I have diabetes. And okay, Leanna, we'll get you in a couple weeks. And hung up the phone and it's like, wait, I think I have type 1 diabetes. I don't think I can wait. And called back. I'm like, all right, come in on the lunch break. We'll figure this out. And sure enough, an A1C of 11%. And there it was, at the prime of my life, about to graduate pharmacy school, step in as manager in my hometown pharmacy, get married in 6 months, thinking about babies, just this big, bright future. And just like that, I was like, well, now what? I knew all there was to know about diabetes, right? I'm a smart pharmacy student. I know the pathophysiology, the medications, and but the weight of that diagnosis just sunk in so deep. And I left the doctor's office with a handful of new prescriptions, the knowing that I'm going to go to my pharmacy, come out with diabetes supplies. Do I have to have something attached to me all the time? What does this look like for my family with, my husband? It was just such an emotional toll. And that's when I realized I do not know how to live with diabetes. And there's a big difference. And they don't teach you that in school. This is a very special thing to communicate with people. And I had a referral for a diabetes educator here in Montana. We're far in between, very rural. And so didn't know when I could actually get in. And I just didn't really have anybody to go to or anything to go to. And so, that's really what sparked all of this. After that, within my own pharmacy, I did establish an accredited program where we can give people that diabetes education and bill insurance for it. But there's still a ton of barriers to that. People don't really utilize it. I think only about 5 to 7% of people with diabetes actually go to diabetes education. So there's a huge gap in that time from diagnosis to a thriving life with diabetes. And so that's my mission, is to help support people with evidence-based guidance, really a Thrive guide, if you will, versus education. It's going to be a fun experience. It's digital, so it's at your fingertips on your timetable. And then there will be community support as well. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of what got me going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've known you for, what, year and a half now, and I will say, I see that drive in you every time we speak. I mean, business is tough, right? That's it. I don't care what, but yours is tougher than most, I will say.
Yes.
but the I see the drive that you have, and that drive, most of the time our drives they derive from an experience, right? So it's, and that experience for you was, that, 24, 25-year-old, young adult that just got kicked in the face with something that you weren't expecting, right? It's the same thing when I was in the military. First deployment, that shit got real. Right? It got real fast. And then it's like, okay, so where's my life going now? Right? I've got kids. I've got, I'm about to leave for 18 months away from family. So on. What impacts is that going to actually have in life? Right. And that's where I think you have the most impact. Is it's not in the education, it's in the story, right? The story is what impacts people, and that's really what I want people to really get across today on this podcast. Is if you're fighting that, that's a fight you don't have to fight alone, right? And that comes with everything in life. There's nothing in life that we have to do alone. And if we are, we're choosing that path.
Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Whether that's business, whether that's your personal life, whatever it is. Yeah, we make our own way. Now, are there shit sandwiches along the way that we have to take bites out of? Absolutely. But we'd never have to do that alone. That's a choice. And I got to tell you, can you talk a little bit about the diabetes program that you're putting together?
Yeah. Like I kind of touched on, it is a digital solution, a digital tool, I guess I will say. It's not something that's meant to replace any kind of real relationship with a person's diabetes team. We're there to support both the healthcare personnel that's on that diabetes care team, as well as the person living with diabetes. There's just so many gaps, right? Like I said, between the gap of, a person goes in for their annual just thinking they have some weird symptoms going on, and they come out with a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. Well, now what? We're here to tell you, please don't go to Google Doc. You're just going to scare yourself. Please don't follow the 21-year-old TikTok influencer that really has no business talking about some of the things. Some of them are great for support, but we want to be that group that's seen as vetted information that will help you live with diabetes. That tool between appointments that can offer continued and updated information just through the whole spectrum. So we cover reducing risks, medications, physical activity, nutrition, so recipes that are friendly for those living with diabetes. And it's actually great for the whole family to kind of adopt this thinking. So yeah, it's just, we're in our infancy, but we're about to pilot a program here in Montana, and we're super excited about it. We just are getting so much support, and when we talk about it, people they get it and they're excited about it. And we just hope that it really does make a tangible difference for people living with diabetes.
Yeah. Well, you hit on something that's kind of close to my heart, because there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. I don't know, whatever the word is, one of the two, miss or dis. I'm not sure.
Right.
Information out there, right? That people are just spewing stuff constantly, right? And they don't really know what they're talking about, right? And that's the beauty of, you're qualified to have these conversations. It's part of your licensing to have these conversations and being where you are. So I hope people, don't go out to the TikTok influencer for information.
Right.
But that's for sure.
And
Because
it's to say we all are doing that, for those quick tips. And so just saying, if you do that, make sure you're vetting who you're watching, because we do want to make the information we give and the experience we give with our digital solution fun and hopeful, something different than that's out there. We don't want it to look like something that's provided by your insurance company, although we feel that this should be, but people don't engage in that kind of stuff. We actually want to help make a difference and make it fun and make it inspiring and motivating, and just be that support tool.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And well, let's do a little bit of a rewind. And that is the business experience of things, right? So let's get into that, just dig into that for a few minutes, because your folks, they were obviously entrepreneurs their whole life pretty much. And how did that really inspire you, right, to want to follow those footsteps, take over the family business? Because I actually did the opposite, right?
Yeah.
In I grew up on the other side of the state from you, on a farm and ranch there, and I did the opposite. I joined the military. I didn't want nothing to do with the family business stuff, because it was farming. It was too hard to work. It's terrible, but we weren't modernized and all those things. It would have been so much work just to bring the farm up to, times and all this stuff. So I didn't make that choice, but you did make that choice. And what were some of the contributing factors? What's been some of your experience?
Yeah, my experience has been probably leaps and bounds different than my parents' experience. Just the beastie of independent pharmacy in general, they still have posters of cash pay medications. I mean, $3 for this, and enter insurance, enter pharmacy benefit managers, enter DIR fees. Just, it's a world different. But there's something in me that just, I'm like a dog with a bone. When someone tells me I can't, or here's a roadblock, it's like, well, I'm going to figure out how to get out of this, and so when I came back,
must be why you and I get along so well.
Must be. So, when I stepped in as manager after college, I brought in MedSync. The pharmacist there at the time couldn't do immunizations. I came in certified to start immunizing right off the bat. Got the diabetes education program going. I've brought in therapeutic shoes for people living with diabetes, pharmacogenomics testing, about to roll out nutrigenomic testing and personalized medicine. But I just saw it as an opportunity to honestly push the whole profession forward and make my life what I want my life to look like. There's been some bigger obstacles than I ever saw coming. I say that with a grain of salt, because people always ask me, Leanna, why didn't you take over the pharmacy earlier? I managed for 10 years first. And it's kind of like, I saw all this coming, and it's kind of happening just like I thought, having to hire new pharmacists, the turnover within my own business, changing people's paradigm. When you grow up in a small town, you are conditioned kind of a certain way. So my dad was the pharmacist and pretty much tied to his counter, but he thrived in that. He loved that. And my mom handled all the business, and she thrived in that and loved that. And I'm taking over both roles, but have never wanted to be tied to my counter, because how can you work on your business if you're working for your business?
Mm-hmm.
And so finding those solutions is kind of ignites me a little bit. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm going to keep pushing through all the resistance, because I think I'm heading into a storm, but you know, just one moment at a time.
Absolutely. And you know what we're going to call this?
Oh no, you're writing.
Finding the solutions to modernize pharmacy.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Right.
Right. We talk about
Right.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you know, you look at just business in a whole, right?
Mhm.
I was talking to somebody you and I both know yesterday, and I said, look, the bottom line is this: we either adapt or die, right? I mean, and that's not just adapt or die in the business part, that's in the audience part too, right? When it comes to the generations, right? All the different generational things, you know, I mean, the boomers are pretty much out now, right? So you got Gen X now, which isn't, you know, we're a whole different breed of people. And then, so your biggest money spenders right now are the Gen Z, right? So how do we really appeal to that audience, right? Of folks. Well, you have to get to know them, right?
Right.
They're not the same. I have two daughters that are Gen Zs, and they're just, you know, they're wonderful kids, but they're snowflakes, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just
Right.
saying they're just snowflakes. Right? And
Yeah.
that's our fault, right? So, and you know, I got two kids, two younger kids, 4 and 7, and who knows what that's going to be like. I have no idea. I'm not even going to try to figure it out either. But
Yeah.
you know, I look at business too, and even from your sense of things as a pharmacy, even though you're, you know, you're out there in, you know, BFE out there, there's always a way,
Yeah.
right? There's
Mhm.
always a way. We just have to crack that way.
Yeah.
But and I think you're on path to do it. It's adversity, right? I mean, obviously, I know what's going on with you pretty much all the time, but I think it's so close to finding all those new solutions that will break that code. And that is going to make you a leader in the pharmacy world and in the diabetes world. And man, I look forward to seeing that from you for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a roller coaster.
Yeah. I love roller coasters.
Me too.
Love them and hate them at the same time,
Right.
right?
But we still keep getting in line. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We just keep getting that express pass, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Over and over and over again. So, um, yeah, you know, the other thing too here is I hope there were some lessons learned through what we just talked about. But as I always like to say, for those hard-headed that maybe didn't catch the subtle lessons there, what's a couple pieces of advice you could give a new founder to help them avoid a few arrows if you could?
I would say be open-minded for growth.
Mm,
I would say be resilient, and you have to have great guts, grace, and gratitude. My favorite G's.
yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you have somebody to call for 911s.
Right. Yep. Gotta have that. Oh,
Hey,
for
I've
sure.
got people in my life for the same thing too. So no doubt about it. We all have to have that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, how do you want people to get in touch with you about the diabetes solutions and the things that you have going on right now?
Yeah, sure. You can reach me at yellowstonepharmacy.com. There's contact information right there. Also, Sugar Beet Enterprise is kind of the home of our pilot program. Can reach out there if anyone is interested in participating. That's where you will enroll. So,
Yeah, Sugar Beet Enterprises. I grew up
mhm.
on a sugar beet farm.
I know it's so funny. We're beat like BEAT, but we get
Yeah.
giggles every time.
I get it. So this was the first year in my hometown after 101 years. There is no more sugar beet.
Wow.
The factory closed down and no more sugar beets after 101 years. It's crazy.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. But just goes to show you how things change, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Things change very much so.
Mhm.
Okay, so I love to close the show with this kind of thought-provoking question a little bit, and that is, if you could have had anyone here today, dead or alive, any point of time, who would have you loved to have here with us today, and why them?
Oh man, that is a tough one for me. But you know, the first person that popped into my mind, and I don't really even know why, but is honestly Amelia Earhart. I think she would just be
Cool.
amazing to learn from and just get inside her head a little bit. So
That's awesome. That's a new one, by the way.
is it? Yeah, it was literally the first person that came to my mind.
Yeah, after 350 episodes, that's a new one.
I love that. I told you I'm different.
Oh, I know that. That's a good thing too, by the way. So, well, awesome. Well, Leanna, thank you for taking the time today. You know, I always say we all have the same 168 hours a day, and I know you got tons of things going on. I never say you're busy, you're always productive. And thanks for taking some, 30 minutes to stop by and give some value to our audience.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
All right. We'll talk soon. Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.